Every journalist and media on the planet speaking bad about KTM, no one telling you the price of shares is going up.
KTM is in hot water.
The Austrian giant now finds itself in financial turmoil.
I've been making really good money with the shares.
5 years later, the company, owned by the peer group, is broke and filing for a judicial restructuring.
KTM shares keep on collapsing and going down. We believe in KTM, so we're going all in.
KTM has reportedly been hit with another blow. Obviously, this is due to the financial crisis they were in.
Could KTM's downfall be a big opportunity for everyone to make money? Welcome back, guys, on my YouTube channel. Today we speak about KTM. KTM, one of the leading manufacturers, especially on the off-road market, which now is experiencing a big challenge. But could KTM's downfall be a big opportunity for everyone to make money? The company shutting now down for several months production. Leaving this aside, which is something that doesn't make anyone happy, I want to go into the financial aspect of this downfall and how I believe this could be a very big opportunity, probably one of those rare opportunities you get in the financial market with stocks. But before we dive into KTM's financial situation and struggles, quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. Anything I say in these videos is my personal experience and using my own logic. Rather than defining myself like someone that invests in stocks, I define myself more of a stock gambler, which means I'm gambling with the KTM stocks. I want to share with you my experience, and maybe some of you could find it useful, inspiring, or the opposite, be like stay away from KTM stock. To give you a bit of context and background of when I started trading, not long ago I started looking at stocks about 1 year ago. In general, I was just curious about the subject. Then in October, I downloaded an app with which I started doing the first very little trades, 100 euros, 200 euros, 50 euros. During the summer, I was already keeping an eye on the KTM situation. And then going to October and November, it was really going down. So then I decided to sell one Enduro used bike that I had and I wasn't using, and got all the money I got from that used bike sale and I put it all on KTM. And I even have the video of when me and Giacomo traded the first stocks of KTM.
I'm here, it's 20th of November 2024. The KTM shares keep on collapsing and going down, but we believe in KTM, so we're going all in. We both invested, and this is one of the first days we have invested, but we're going all in. So every day that KTM shares are losing price, we'll keep putting in money because we believe one day go like a rocket to the moon, and I'll get my Dakar paid by KTM and Giacomo will get his KTM 390 Adventure paid by KTM.
Call us stupid, we are not stupid.
Let's see what will happen in the future and go back to this video.
Since that moment, I put a little bit more money, and I was very lucky because I put the money right when it was rock bottom at €7.80 per share. Then I did a second investment when it was around 10 something. So my average price per stock is about €9. And in a moment, I'll also share with you how much money I earned, because my plan is to get KTM's share to pay for my Dakar 2026. Okay, let's start looking at the graphs, keeping in mind that at the moment KTM has a very short time, because by end of May they need to find at least 600 million euros. They've agreed with the creditors, with all the suppliers, to pay a 30% of their debt, but still dealers now are in a very critical situation with loads of unsold bikes. Same goes with KTM. The production has stopped, which means that no one is getting sure info on the arrival of new bikes. I tell you this because I've ordered some new bikes that we need to develop parts for, and no dealer is able to give us the exact delivery time. They were supposed to arrive in June, but now with this new halt, they might arrive end of the summer or potentially even next year. What could be worrying is the Dakar Rally. Everyone is speaking about MotoGP cutting down the team in MotoGP. For sure, that would save a lot of money to KTM. But speaking to Dakar, which is what we are all passionate about, is the fact that KTM already announced to the Gas and Husqvarna dealers that the KTM Rally Replica, which is offered also as Husqvarna and as Gas, will no longer be available. You will be able to order only a KTM Rally Replica. Most riders racing Dakar will go and order the KTM Rally Replica. The issue is, at the moment, no dealer is able to tell you if these bikes will be delivered or not in September, because in all the past years they would deliver them in September. Now the situation could be critical for Dakar riders that are counting on buying a KTM Rally Replica, reason for which I kept this year's Dakar bike just to be sure that if I don't manage to develop my own bike, I have a plan B and will be at the start of Dakar 2026. Looking at the graph, I believe there is something very interesting. Here we have the full stock history of KTM. So starting like in 2007, the price of shares was around 15 euros. Then in 2008, it had a big boost. It's the years they started really winning and starting dominating on the motocross enduro scene. And at that moment, the shares went up to 25 euros per share. Then it went a bit down. Lots of issues, in my opinion, to the motocross bikes were using the PDS system, but riders weren't really happy about those systems. Also, it's the moment when Dakar moved to South America. The rules had changed. I don't think this is a big correlation with the price of shares, but it's just telling you different things that happened in the history of the KTM production line of bikes. Here then, in 2012, the first interesting pattern, at least to what I've seen, started happening. In 2011, the new generation of motocross bikes was presented and subsequently the new enduro models came out. In 2013, we see the price of shares go quite up a bit to 18 euros, so still lower than the big boom they had in 2008, but the trend was going up. Once again, then the price of share was quite constant with no big swings. We reached 2015. During 2015, KTM launches the new generation of motocross bikes. After that, like always, when the new motocross generation comes out, the year later, the new enduro generation comes on the market. After this, the price of shares went up quite a bit, going to all-time high until that moment to 37 euros per share. By end of 2016, KTM presented the 1290 Super Adventure, which was supposed to be the ultimate adventure bike and take away market from BMW. In 2017, the price of shares went up all the way to 54.5 euros per share. I believe also the big expectancy of the 1290 and getting close to the launch of a new generation of off-road bikes could have affected the price of shares. Once again, another spike goes in 2018. In 2018, KTM in May, I think, or June, because I was also at the press launch, launches the new generation of motocross bikes, the 2019 model. And in that moment, we have a peak with 69.6 euros per share. After that, we all know it, there was COVID. So during COVID, everything crashed down. In fact, in March of 2020, the price went down all the way to 27.4 euros per share. Still, a price that was higher than the period of 2007 to 2015, meaning that who invested at the beginning in KTM still was making money with the shares. After COVID, in the whole automotive industry, there has been an incredible boom. The sales of motorbikes went just crazy. And we experienced a boom like also in the bicycle sector that had never happened before, but that was because we had the lockdown, so people saved a lot of money, but also being in the constraint of an apartment, once we were able to go out again, we really wanted to engage in outdoor activities. After the initial boom in 2022, then the price went down again. It went to 57 euros per share in September of 2022. So we had a moment where everything went down because prices had gone up due to inflation. There was scarcity in material, meaning delivery times were pretty long and the raw materials were very expensive. So across the whole industry, prices had to go up for parts. Another fascinating aspect is that then in August and September of 2022, the new generation of motocross models was starting to be delivered. And like we saw, the correlation every time a new generation of motocross model was introduced, the price of shares went up. This time it went up all the way to 82 euros as per February 2023. Everyone knew that also the new enduro models were coming, so the price of the shares was constant. It went slightly down, but then it just started collapsing. As per July 2023, the price of the share started going down. Investments in MotoGP, then KTM having 3 companies, KTM, Husqvarna and GasGas, means having 3 different departments from marketing, from production, so that means even different molds. And from my personal experience working in the industry as test rider, I believe that with the last generation bike models, they really didn't hit their marks. And with several recalls that the motorbikes had, starting from the enduro bikes, had the on-off switch that was recalled on all bikes. Then the brake tech on the Husqvarna and the GasGas models that had another recall, and the parts were substituted by the dealers. This is not what affected the share, but if we look at the bigger picture, it's like they got very big. The price of shares went really up because at their highest peak they were almost 90 euro a share. They grew quickly and probably they started throwing money away. Also, what I saw with the development of the bikes, I believe if we look at the Dakar bike, how many times it changed and how long it took for KTM to bring the new generation to the market compared to the years prior, where usually 1, maximum 2 years before we would see the factory team use the rally replica and then it would be available for the public. This is the frame of the current rally replica that is sold at Dakar. KTM is using a completely different frame, different tanks, meaning they had to make other molds and other R&D investments. Even the windshield had to be redesigned from the first version they started using to the version that now is sold. And remember, each mold of this type for injection molding is very expensive. It can be 30,000-40,000 euros. If you then add up all small mistakes on not only rally bikes and probably even on other bikes, the sum becomes pretty big and the losses can be huge if not properly monitored. These are just assumptions I make, and reason for which I want you to comment down below. I want to know your point of view, and if you have any insights, because what I told you today is very general. It's just, my feeling and finding a small correlation that made me decide to try and gamble on this stock. The shares plummeted as November. No one knew if they would even come to EICMA. In that moment, I managed to buy the shares at the lowest point. Despite all the news on the media of KTM going bankrupt, of KTM closing down and so on, the price of the share started going up. And I still remember during Dakar one night in my tent, I was racing Malamoto, I would check on my app, and of the money I had invested, I was earning already more than double what I had invested, meaning I had over 10,000 euros of profit if I had sold the share at the moment. But I still believe it can go way higher, because if it has already reached 90 euro a share in the past, I believe it could do it again. Furthermore, going from end of November to beginning of January and having earnings for more than double of my investments is something very rare. You basically see this volatility in cryptocurrency, and sometimes not even that much, like putting 1,000 euros in end of November and getting in January over 1,500 euros back. To me, that is very good deal. In these days, 1 week ago, a lot of very bad news about KTM came out again on all the medias. I see a lot of YouTube videos of people speaking about the disastrous situation. Reality is the price of share is going up. If I sold now, I still would make a good profit for what I've invested. And I'm not the only one that have invested money. There's someone that surely invested a lot more money, and that is the MotoGP rider Maverick Viñales. They wrote on the media that Maverick Viñales invested in shares to support KTM. Come on, guys. I mean, I don't know who wrote these pieces on the media, but to me, that is big bullshit. Maverick Viñales probably saw the opportunity to make a big amount of money, because if me as a normal person invested the money I made from a sale of a used bike, I'm sure Maverick Viñales invested hundreds, thousands of euros, meaning that even if he sold during the Dakar period when it went all the way up to above 20 euros a share, he would have more than doubled his investment. I find all this very fascinating. I really want some of you guys that are more expert, maybe you are an expert trader, to give me your take, because even on the app I use for trading, everyone is saying, all the analysts are saying to sell or to hold the stock. Instead, I didn't listen to any analyst and I bought. I could potentially lose all my money, because if KTM for some reason closes down and is delisted from the stock exchange market, I would lose all that. But I have a feeling that when the next generation motocross bikes will come out, which could be next year, in 2026, maybe KTM will present the new 2027 models with a new generation, or they could skip a year due to all the financial issues and production stop they have to 2028. But my plan is to keep the stock until the next generation, since after every hard moment for a company usually lies the biggest opportunity. That was the case in my personal life. Every time I found myself at the lowest point, having to overcome biggest challenge, is where I found the maximum strength and where I had my creativity really boosted. Probably even business-wise, when a company is at their lowest point, they can no longer throw away money and they really have to sit down, check everything and plan a strategy. Every time you cannot afford to fail is when you take out the best of you. One thing I really want you to notice is the fact that, for example, in the last week, there has been an increase in the share price of over 25%. That is massive gains. And in 2 weeks, Pure Mobility, or as known KTM, will have to provide the financial release, meaning in 2 weeks, the price of shares could either drop once again really badly, or it could increase substantially. Which brings me to the point, is it too late to invest in KTM? In my opinion, at 16 euro per share is still not too late, because potentially even analysts say it should go over 20 euros. I believe that in a couple of years it could go above 50 euros, which translate in over doubling the investment. Now, could this be the case for KTM? And should we expect that the next generation of off-road bike models will be the best ever? Well guys, this is a very different style of video that I'm bringing you here on the channel, but I'm passionate about so many things, you know, from industrial machinery all the way to stocks, referring always to stocks relative to the motorbike and automotive industry. I believe that trading can be very dangerous. It's really like gambling. So my little advice is only put in money on stocks that you are willing to lose. Furthermore, if you stick to the industry you work in, I work in the motorbike industry, I believe that the risks are much less compared to investing, I don't know, to some service company that I know nothing about that particular industry. Let me know down in the comments what are your thoughts, and if this video could be a starting point for a discussion. You know, I'm willing to hear the different point of views on the KTM situation connected to the stocks. Investing in KTM is a very big risk. I am aware of this, but I believe that in life and in business, the bigger the risk, the bigger could be the reward. At the same time, the bigger could be the downfall. I'm really curious to see what the future holds for KTM. I believe that KTM is such a big brand that it will definitely not disappear from the market. It's to understand if there will be an acquisition or if the full production manufacturing situation can be saved. And in that case, I believe that if KTM recovers in a few years, probably when the next generation of enduro and motocross bikes will come out, we will see the KTM share price skyrocket. At least that's what I hope. Thanks guys for watching. Stay tuned and see you in the next one. Ciao.